So will you be receiving a stimulus check this month? I know that's the question that many of you want to be answered. Listen to this. You are eligible to receive more stimulus checks from a new federal program. This is really great because it's going to help so many people that are financially struggling due to the crisis. So remember folks, on this channel, I always do my very best in providing you with the most up-to-date and reliable stimulus check and social security news. So it really means a lot to me if you could subscribe to the channel.
An executive order to ensure that the federal government puts you, the American people, at the front of the line and for first in everything we do. I'm directing 17 agencies here to focus on more than 30 key areas to make it easier to apply for services and benefits that they're entitled to, they paid for, theirs, their government.
Now back to the breaking news folks, the Restaurant Meals program also covers people with disabilities and people experiencing homelessness. The program is most widely available in California and Arizona. But some really good news is that many states across the country are beginning to have this program available. States like Maryland and Illinois are starting up their operations for this relief program right now, which is really good to know. It can be very difficult right now to buy groceries, especially with prices rising very quickly. Sadly, the inflation rates are hiking up. And that's a key measure of inflation climbed to a level not seen since June of 1982. And that's absolutely ridiculous.
Once again, those at the very top get the biggest breaks. And what do we have to show for it? Even our Republican friends are now beginning to admit there's no evidence these tax cuts are being put to work in the economy. No new growth, just more debt. And that puts middle-class programs that they rely on and they've worked for at real risk.
Folks, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has also reported that consumer price inflation rose by 6.8% without seasonal adjustments over the past 12 months. So it is extremely important that Congress continues to provide the American people with more stimulus money through relief programs. Do you believe that President Biden can send out the fourth stimulus check, folks? Tell me in the comments below.
Some money. We got your $480 million last year, the first increase for the administration of Social Security in many, many years. Because we know that in Vermont or in Oregon and all over this country, when people are walking into or calling up Social Security offices, they're not getting the kind of response that they need because of lack of staffing.
Now, nutrition experts and advocates also say that the Restaurant Meals program has seen a very sudden growth, and people that are not on Social Security are receiving these stimulus checks. Now, this isn't thanks to a larger push to expand access to the SNAP program. Advocates and Americans are worried about what these relief programs mean for people once they expire. But let's see what happens, everybody. That's why I believe Congress should pass another stimulus relief package very soon. It is completely necessary as the crisis just continues to negatively impact the country. Lawmakers cannot ignore the fact that prices are rising like crazy. Millions of Americans are beginning to no longer be able to afford the same food.
Well, we can put forth Social Security for our children. This will make a tremendous difference in the lives of America's families, and so proud that so many children will be taken out of poverty. My whole thing in politics, my why, was the sadness over 1 in 5 children living in poverty in America. 1 in 5 children in America going to sleep hungry at night. How could it be? Well, this tax credit, I call it the Biden tax credit, thank you, Mr. President, does a lot to alleviate that.
Millions of Americans are beginning to no longer be able to afford the same food that they just bought a couple months ago. That's because the crisis is only making things worse. Now everyone in Congress needs to make sure that the most poor people are not left out of receiving any stimulus money.
On the evolution of the movement to remove highways all across America, and they showcased Rochester. And what you see now in the site of the former Interloop there was, first of all, they had room to expand the beautiful Strong Museum of Play. If you have not taken your kids there too, after you've seen everything here, go to Rochester. It is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. They had room to expand there. Affordable housing, supportive housing, townhouses, a neighborhood. It is stunning, and it also understood that there could be tremendous pressure for gentrification if you didn't build the affordable housing as part of it immediately. So people who want to live there in beautiful new homes, these are stunning I walked through the apartments. I saw what was being done, supportive housing for veterans and others who've been identified as places and individuals who need help. We did that in Rochester on the very site where there had been a highway not unlike the one right outside these doors. That's what gives me hope. It's been done before with great success. And we always know that the land downtown is the most valuable. This is where people want to congregate. We know that. People see the possibilities, just as I have, growing up in an area where the people used to say, the last one out of town, turn out the lights. We've come a long way from that attitude. We are optimistic now. We see a better future. And the city, once the highway's gone, they can develop this into a wonderful asset for them. To take something that had just been an eyesore and people just got used to it, never even questioned why it's even there in the first place, something we just accepted. We're no longer just accepting things because they came before. We can't always assume they did it right the first time, as the Majority Leader pointed out. So building back a city, it's a multifaceted approach, and there's no examples where the quality of life in a community or neighborhood improved when they put a highway in, but when you remove it, bam, it happens like this. As I mentioned, people congregating, children playing, what we can do with parks and linkages, but also the jobs that are created doing this, critically important as we're coming back after this pandemic, so I'm excited about that aspect of it, as well as just a thought that this place matters. It matters enough, the people matter enough that we're going to reconnect, reunite the neighborhoods. So there's economic, there's psychological benefits, there's environmental benefits that come from removing this asphalt structure, as well as just the social opportunities for interconnection. And that's why when I spoke about infrastructure in my State of the State address and in my budget, I say most people don't get real excited about the words infrastructure, maybe other than guys in the front row over here. That's all they talk about. But to me, infrastructure means connections. And I know this because I worked for 14 years in local government. And I saw what a road could do, or the harm a road could cause, depending on how it was placed. I also knew that there were strong needs for water lines, sewer lines, infrastructure. And when you do that, you're taking care of very basic needs. And for so long, when I was in local government, we were always saying, Albany, please help us. Can you send some money? And it felt like we were always crying to deaf ears. And now I'm in a position to say, I understand local government. Let's let you reimagine your communities with friends and support from Albany. And now, because of what President Joe Biden did, along with people like Brian Higgins and our majority leaders and our senators and others, they got it together and did something that is a generational change. We now have the money to do projects like this because of what happened in Washington